morning, and welcome to Student Development Today, your favorite Saturday morning talk show. I'm Teresa Chavez.
Yes, hello, Teresa, and I'm Student X, and we are here every Saturday from 8 to 2, airing live from UCCS, correct?
That is correct.
So what are we doing on the show today, Teresa?
So today we'll be talking about our development as students.
Okay. How do you want to go about that?
Well, I thought maybe that you could ask me some questions, and then I would ask you some questions.
Okay, perfect. How should we start?
Well, if you don't mind, I'd love for you to ask me some questions first.
Let's do it.
Great.
Teresa, thank you for joining me. My first question is, how would you identify as a student and an individual?
Good question. So I would definitely identify myself as an undocumented Mexican first-generation student. I'm also a junior at UCCS studying sociology, and I love K-pop music. I also try to stay involved on campus through various clubs and organizations and through student employment.
Where do you work?
So I'm actually working in the UCCS orientation office right now, and I used to be an employee at the IT help desk.
Very nice. So you mentioned identifying as a Mexican student. How do you relate to or identify with your culture?
So I definitely identify strongly with my Mexican heritage. This is something that's really important to my family and also really important to me. I have enjoyed making connections with other Latino students at UCCS and in Colorado Springs, but I would definitely say that I identify strongly as a Mexican student.
Have you considered joining the Latino Student Union on campus?
Oh, yes, I have. I'm actually a member there, and we meet on Friday nights, and I really enjoy it.
Oh, great. How have you changed and developed over your time at UCCS?
So during college, I've definitely sought to learn more about myself and develop a stronger sense of identity. I've done that by getting involved in different things, different clubs and organizations that have provided me with professional development opportunities and opportunities to socialize with others and get to explore myself a little bit more. I also have really worked to become more confident in myself and in my personal values and beliefs.
Great. So you mentioned you were seeking to become more confident in your personal values and beliefs.
Oh, yes.
How would you describe your moral development throughout college?
So I've really developed a passion for social justice during my time as a student. And I've done this through different involvements that I've been in, and one of those being Teen Court, where I've gotten to volunteer and mentor youth in Colorado Springs. And then I also just recently started a club on campus for undocumented students called the Dreamers and Allies Club. And that has really helped me learn stories from others and to develop a greater passion for social justice and equality for all people.
Great. What types of support have you received as a student at UCCS?
So it's been great for me to be able to connect with other undocumented students on campus through the Dreamers and Allies Club. And I've also been involved in the Chancellors and Leadership class at UCCS, which has provided me with different professional development opportunities and helped me sort of network with different nonprofits and organizations around Colorado Springs. And I've also been able to develop connections with other students who are in the club, and they've been a source of support for me as well. However, I've found that a lot of student affairs professionals at UCCS aren't really aware of any resources for undocumented students on campus. So as a freshman, I really had to find myself navigating a lot of resources on my own, which was a challenge for sure.
Yes, I can imagine. Well, I would love to offer you some resource suggestions that I might know about. You could look into getting a faculty advisor for your new student club for undocumented students. They are a good source of support. The Mosaic and Global Engagement offices both offer programming and support around cultural competence and for undocumented students.
Okay.
And then you could also look into a club or organization for sociology students based on your major.
Oh, perfect. Thanks so much for those suggestions.
Yes, my pleasure. This week we're joined by a special correspondent. Who do we have here?
We have Bella.
What's she going to be doing for us?
Probably sniffing something.
Great.
All right, so moving right along, my first question for you is, what are 3 of your identifiers? For example, mine would be gay white male.
I would say my top 3 would be female, first generation, mixed race.
Okay.
And a little bit more about my mixed race because it's an interesting story. I was raised in kind of a black-white dichotomy. I obviously knew that I looked different from my white peers, but I was kind of raised in a white environment. My mother looked white and my grandmother looked white. My father was black, but he wasn't really around. However, then when I turned 13, I found out that I had a whole Asian side of my family. So it turns out I'm actually tri-mixed race. So
Oh, how interesting.
riddle me that. Exactly, yes.
So how has being mixed race impacted you before and during college?
So I've luckily never been a victim of overt racism of any sort. My community has always been very supportive.
Okay.
As I was kind of grappling with various identities of mine, especially with my black identity, I relied on relationships with my older half-siblings to kind of develop some of those things about being black and what that means. And I also really relied on black music artists. Michael Jackson and Prince were very influential on me growing up. And now I feel equally as close to my both black side of my family and the Asian side of my family after meeting my great-grandmother and finding out all about that. I've gotten to really kind of explore that side of my family and now feel as equally black as I do Asian as I do white, which kind of leads to more of people thinking you have to choose between being black or white or Asian. You can't be a combination of them. You can't be mixed. You have to pick one. So that's just kind of been most of my experience. Never overt actions, but people being confused that you can't have it all.
Right. So my next question is, how have you changed developmentally since entering college, especially following the loss of your mother and grandmother?
Yeah, so the loss of my mother and grandmother were really tough on me. They died about 3 days apart from each other. My father wasn't in the picture, so they were my primary caretakers. And so this was happening right as I was kind of ending my senior year, transitioning into college. So it was obviously really tough. But in a sense, it was almost freeing because it allowed me truly a clean slate. I had literally to start over and kind of create my own identity and experiences and what I wanted out of life. So it was kind of a nice jumping off point as I was going off to college because I truly didn't have anything holding me back to where I was. And as hard as that was going into it, looking back now and since being at UCCS, the relationships I created and the things I've done on campus through various student organizations I'm involved. So I've really come to develop my sense of self, and I think a lot of that came because I was kind of forced into that development after the loss of my mother and grandmother.
Sure. So how has being a woman influenced your development and how you view the world?
Yeah, so I would say definitely in high school, so like I said, I was kind of forced into things really early and I kind of grew up really fast. I ended up being kind of the mother of my 2 nephews. I took them to school and I made sure they had dinner and things like that. I kind of raised them for about 4 years throughout high school. And so in high school, I kind of thought that a woman's job was to do just that, to take care of people and serve others before serving herself, I guess. And until a certain point, I thought that was okay, and then I kind of reached my breaking point, and I decided that that wasn't enough, and I began questioning why I was putting others before myself and kind of others' needs before my own when making decisions. So when I came to college, I knew that that was not how I wanted to continue things, and I was going to make decisions for myself and based off of the needs I wanted. And more importantly, I realized that wasn't selfish. That was just what I needed to do.
It's very wise.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So that is, I think all we have. Do you have anything else you'd like to add? So why were we doing this today? Would you like to say, Teresa? Just the experiences?
I would love to say it's important to understand that students have different developmental backgrounds and experiences that have shaped their worldview and their current sense of identity. And I think as student affairs professionals, we really need to be sensitive and aware of that.
Yes, I would agree. I would say it's very important that we are aware of where students are in their development, but more importantly than that, how we as student affairs professionals can move them along in their developmental journey and how we can get them to that next step of developing their identity.
Absolutely, Student X. Absolutely.
Thank you, Teresa. Well, thank you all for joining us on this lovely Saturday morning. 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, and welcome to your favorite Saturday morning talk show, Student Development Today. I'm Teresa.
Teresa, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate your willingness to sit down and share your experiences with me.
My pleasure. Now I would love to ask you some questions.
Of course.
Student X.
Yes.
What an interesting name.
Thank you. I am very discreet.
All right. Good morning, and welcome to Student Development. You can see her.
Any last words?
Signing off.
Cheers.
Cheers.